Hello, World Wide Web. Radrick here. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Bridging the Gap podcast. Today I've got another special guest on. We connected via the remote year community many moons ago when the company was still in its infancy. He was a program leader for RY3 Cousteau back when the names of the groups meant something. He has done a couple laps around the globe and now working on a new project that is somewhat of a digital nomad haven. Really happy to have him as a guest on here. Looking forward to many more. This podcast is about digital nomadism, finding your ikigai, process through Kaizen, learning to chase your dreams, and to become the best version of yourself that you possibly can. Without further ado, let's get into it. Cool,
So,
bro.
how are you, man?
Oh, busy, bro. So much things going on, and yeah, I'm having to juggle these podcasts. It's hard to find a 2 hour window in most people's lives, but I really find that if it's less than 2 hours, it's like not really that interesting, unless it's like one of those pre-made, like you have going into the podcast, you have like this set of things that you want to talk about, and it's like super focused.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, it's not really the vibe that I want to capture. Just have like a long form conversation about taking the leap and how you got to the other side of it, and you know uh, how it was getting there, and
Yeah, man.
you know you've uh, you've done a lot of community led stuff, and so there's a lot of the onus is a lot on the community, but
Yeah,
also just like for the solopreneur who's like at the beginning of their journey,
yeah,
because it's really scary to start because it feels
for
really
sure.
risky. And so yeah, I want these conversations to be with people who have taken that first leap, and just to
Yeah,
show other people like what's on the other side of taking that leap. You know?
yeah. Like your phone number is not that important, or like
Yeah.
so I actually wrote a blog a little while ago about I forget what it called, but it was like something like 5 things I was worried about before traveling the world that I shouldn't have been worried about. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
some of that stuff I think helps. Like, am I gonna be
Yeah.
able to get money out of the ATM in where? It's like, yeah, you
Yeah.
are. It's actually a weird, worry because like if you don't know, you don't know. So it kind of makes
Oh,
sense to worry about some of
there
that
are
stuff.
some scary ATMs out there.
True. I bet a
Uh,
few cards even.
in Eastern Europe, they'll try and handle the exchange for you, and they'll take a pretty, you know, a good exchange for them, but not for you. You always let your bank handle the exchange rate.
Yeah.
At least they give
Yeah,
you the
the old
choice.
scam or whatever that, yeah, like when you get the choice, a lot of people do it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think I saw it in Croatia, and I hear about it in Czech Republic. I never really had to deal with it in Bulgaria, but yeah, it's something to be cognizant about anyway.
Yeah, because it's kind of a trick. It feels like the right answer would be to touch your denomination, like the one
Yeah.
that that's from your home country, but like no,
Hmm.
that's the button that kind of
Yeah.
screws you up.
In Nicaragua, they basically take USD, so you can get
Yeah.
USD out, so you don't have to worry about the exchange. You have to just worry about it like at the till when you're spending. But they
Yeah.
actually do it good here. It's pretty. I think the local dollar, they have Cordobas. They're pegged to the US dollar, so there's like an expectation going around of how much $20 is worth.
Hmm.
And the ATMs only give you 20s, so everybody knows it's 720 Cordobas for every $20, and so you can do the
Yeah.
math.
Okay.
You can do the math easy. And sometimes they might like miss 5 Cordobas, but it's like a coin, right? So it's
Yeah. It's not a huge deal.
it's so lean that I definitely notice
Yeah.
when they chintz me out on a few Cordobas, because there's something to be said about the honesty of that person.
True.
But it's
Love
like
attention.
if you're just going to like a mom and pop's grocery store, it's like, okay, lady, you can have the five
Yeah.
Cordobas if
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
makes you feel good. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I'd rather go to them anyway than go to like the big chains.
Yeah.
But the big chains, there's the chain here. It's probably the discount chain. they give you like they put in their machine $20 US, and it automatically does the
It
math.
does the change in like.
And so yeah, you can trust it there, even though they all have kind of a different setup. Like there's one here, the Ocean Market. It gives you 720, and then if you go to the Pali, which is just outside of town, it gives you 736. You know, it's like going out of town for that extra 16 chords is like not
Is that? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Is that really?
But
What city are you
when
in? I want to look up on a map like where you are.
San Juan del Sur,
Oh, okay. Actually, I
it's
saw it looks.
yeah, there's some people here from RY that they're up in Popoyo, which is like a couple hours north of the
Yeah,
of here.
yeah. I saw Eric just got there. Eric Nation and Josie.
Oh,
They're still
really?
really good. Yeah, they
They're
just got
here.
over from Lisbon, and I think it was the first part of like this part of their trip, and then they're going to come up to Puerto soon.
What trip are they on? They're just on a personal trip.
They're like on a never-ending trip. I think they spend like half the year in Lisbon, but then like the other half of the year is sort of like extended travel. So it's like
Yeah.
this is their time away from basically their most home base of Lisbon. But like I think Puerto's sort of a home base in their minds.
Well,
and,
if they have a digital nomad visa, then they probably have to be in Lisbon for at least 6 months a year. So
I think that's what they did. Yeah.
yeah. Who are they? What's the girl's name?
Josie. It's just like
Chelsea.
Josie.
Josie.
Josie. Yeah. Like
I don't know if I know Josie.
Yeah, she's great, man. She's great. She's Dutch.
I only kind of know Eric by name. Never really talked to him or met him in person, but I've seen him.
Surprising. You guys are
He
both pretty active.
Yeah, he skateboards, and so his Instagram has caught my eye a couple of times, but I'm not sure if we're following each other anymore or not. So
yeah, but they got a kid now. They got married
They
got married a couple years ago in Puerto. It was really fun. I got to play a little music at their wedding and stuff. It was a good time.
They got married there?
They got married in Puerto, yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, it was cool. Dude, honestly, it's like the one wedding I've been to.
Why did they choose there? Just because you were there? You're like, oh, let's do it. Let's get married in Puerto because of Travis.
I mean, I think like the community, like me and like maybe 50 other people or whatever that they're close with here, sort of did help that because the group of people that was at that wedding was so fun. And honestly, it was one of those weddings that I always think I would model my wedding exactly off of theirs. It was a one-day event. It was one really nice villa that they had like the whole wedding party come to in like the morning, but then all the other guests came in the afternoon, like pre-sunset drinks, then like the ceremony I think before the sunset, and then after like the dinner and like my little band played some music, and like it was like 80 to 90 people, something like that. But I really feel like I talked to every single person there. Like it was just like it was like all one really fun, eventful, full day, but then it was like over. So yeah, it's just everything about it. I was like, that is the perfect wedding execution. Like they fucking nailed it.
Good for them.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It was a really good day.
Sweet, bro. So let's rewind way before remote year. You know, don't spoil your book. We'll talk about your book at the end or somewhere in the middle, maybe. But yeah, you used to work at a camp. You were a camp counselor for a while, yeah?
Yeah, man. I still sort of identify as just like a grown-up camp counselor.
just a big kid.
Well, it's like the first thing I really felt like I was good at, and like it's just one of like when you're pretty good at something, and kind of it's just like, all right, I'm still good at that. It's like
where was it?
To the community stuff.
Was it in the States?
It was like, it's a camp for a lot of kids from Chicago and Milwaukee suburbs, and like maybe a little further afield than that as well. But like it's an hour outside of Milwaukee, basically. Just into the country, like into the rural part of Milwaukee.
Yeah. Usually is in the boonies. Somebody's trying to turn their farmland into something interesting and monetize it.
Something like that, yeah.
What was it like?
We got 2 lakes, and it's like it was very classic. It's a YMCA summer camp, so like a very classic sort of camp experience. But not like too religious, it's not like we were like saying prayers before meals or anything. But like,
is YMCA a religious organization?
Yeah, Young Man's Christian Association is the.
I didn't.
It has like religious roots.
I thought the C was for community, men's community, youth men's community.
No, it has a religious like a backbone, but like in certain camps or certain parts of the YMCA, you'll feel it a lot, I think, and then in other parts you won't. Like we have such a big Jewish community in Milwaukee where I'm from that like I'd say like a third of the summer camp was Jewish kids, so it's not like it's not like it has this like
hardcore. Force you to pray and stuff like that.
And I actually went to Jewish camp, and they did force me to pray. I still know like Hebrew in my mind because of having to be like this little kid before mealtime at like the Jewish.
Yeah, you got to do it. Do you have any funny stories or like horror stories
Oh
from
man,
being a camp counselor?
dude, I have some great stories, dude. And actually, like with this, I was just looking. We have like this rag program at camp where you like set goals, and then like one of your mentors like ties this rag around your neck. It's like this old tradition that comes from like a different YMCA camp that got spread all over. But I got my rags back from my parents' house, so they're like hanging up over there. So yeah, camp's all over my house still, even in a sense. But one of my yeah, I got some really funny stories. I'd say my all-time favorite one is I had this kid named Big D, and he was like this like inner city kid, chubby guy. Like he fit into like my clothes perfectly, just as to say it like that. And I was like 20 and he
Oh,
was 9,
yeah, yeah.
and he was like just chubby, like just this chubby funny kid. And like he was on the bottom bunk one night. I remember like waking up in the middle of the night and just to like a loud thud, and I like woke and I kind of opened my eyes all hazy or whatever, and I look across the cabin and he was like directly in front of me where his bunk was, and he basically stood up, like he fell out of bed and he stood up, and then he just peed in his suitcase. And like
Oh
I
my
watching
God.
it and being like, what is he doing? I don't know if he's like sleepwalking or what or whatever. So at that point, like once you start peeing, you can't stop. I was like, what can I do about this right now?
Wasn't
So I just
he was sleepwalking or something
or
probably.
something, or just like nervous
Yeah.
to go outside in the middle of the night because it's like it's like uncomfortable, like 3 a.m, and he's like first time like seeing the lake
In
and
the
being like
in
being outside of the
nature.
city.
He
Really,
didn't
yeah, I mean,
realize that all of outside is a toilet for
the toilet,
nature.
like yeah, he could have gone anywhere else but his own suitcase. So I fell back asleep, and then I woke up to like to him shaking me like before the even like the morning bugle blew, and he was like, "Hey, Travis, someone peed in my suitcase," and he was like trying to blame it, or just like trying to make sense of it. I was like,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
knew,
he was sleeping, bro.
oh yeah, like so then I remember like asking the whole cabin. I was like, "Hey guys, wake up! Like the bugle's gonna blow soon." But like I woke up early. I was like, "Big D said like found pee in his suitcase. Did anybody pee in his suitcase?" Like I had to try to treat his like question like it had some
Like it
merit or
was
whatever.
real. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
You
I
couldn't
still remember.
just tell him that you saw him doing it. That wouldn't
I mean,
be.
I didn't want to like embarrass him in front of the kids. Like it's his first time trying to
So
like
don't
make.
wake them up. Just be like, "Yo, buddy, I saw you." You know.
Well, the whole cabin, it was like it was
They
happening in like a
were.
space. Like they were
They,
all aware kind of the conversation. But
yeah.
I still think about this one kid, Meineke, who ended up becoming a counselor one day. Like he just always had that vibe in him where I'm like, you're gonna be
Yeah.
the best counselor. And he actually was like, hey, actually, I think I saw like a raccoon come in here last night when I woke up. Maybe it was the raccoon peed in your suitcase or whatever.
Oh.
All the kids were like, yeah, it was the raccoon. So like the whole cabin agreed that like a raccoon peed in Big D's suitcase. So
Oh
he never got
man.
embarrassed. I like took all the stuff to the
Oh.
laundry, and then he basically wore my clothes for like the next 3 days. So the whole camp just found it hilarious because like the story kind of got around. It's like, why is Big D wearing Travis's clothes? And then like, yeah, it was just it's one of those things where I'm like, it's so funny, like the weird stuff that happens at a summer camp. But like that
Oh,
was one
that's
of my
funny.
favorite kids and favorite stories. Like there's like 3 or 4 really good Big D
Yeah.
stories.
Did
Just
they have the like a classic scenario where the girls' camp was on the other side of the river?
yeah, I mean, there's a girls' unit on the other side of across from the
Okay.
huge field, so like the boys and girls are kind of separated, and then the older kids all actually stayed in one unit together, like the 12 and 13-year-olds in the Explorer
Yeah.
unit, and they went on
Okay.
a big trip for like half of their time of like when they would come for 2 weeks, half the time would be like going up north and like on a big canoe trip and stuff.
Yeah.
It was a really cool camp. It was a really classic camp, like like bows and arrows, climbing wall, canoeing in the lake, horses, like all
Yeah.
that kind of classic stuff. But
Sailing.
sailing, yeah, we had little sailboats. But yeah, it's also I always I say like I give it a lot of credit for like it made me who I am more than like anything else outside of like my family probably. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a cool place. And like it's the kind of place where every single kid that was a camper there wanted to be a counselor. So there's this really competitive program called the LT program where like at the end of every summer, I actually remember like that part being really like just all of the kids would apply to be an LT and we could only pick 20 guys and 20 girls. So it's like, like
Mhm.
100, 200 really cool kids that like, were really great campers, like had a great time. But like for a lot of them, it's their last summer, even like being able to come to camp, like even being able to be
Yeah.
invited. So then you get when I remember getting my letter and like finding out that I was like selected for like being one of the 20 guys in the LT program. So that was like a big moment. But then you go through that for 3 years, and then basically however many males or females decide to not come back the following summer, that's how many spots there are on the staff. So like
Yeah.
out of those 20 guys still, it becomes this super intense competition where there's
Mhm.
maybe going to be only 3 spots on staff. So you're trying like that last summer when you're 17 to like work your fucking ass off to like earn
How
one of those three
how
jobs.
how do you stand out? How did you stand out?
So actually I took on I just stayed the whole summer. Normally that's like a half the summer job, but like they said they were looking for somebody to be like the kitchen 3, which basically meant like that second half of the summer I just like really helped make sure the dining hall ran properly, and I got to do some
Yeah.
of the fun
So
campus
you got
stuff.
a little bit of like you had a little bit of like more experience in other spaces that you could help out in, and
Yeah, and I just basically just showed that like I'm here for this. Like I'll work my tail off to like
yeah,
be good at this. And yeah, and I was
cool.
yeah, and I think I've also just I kind of always had that camp counselor energy. So like right away too with like just my relation with kids and stuff.
Mhm.
Just always had fun with it. So like if you're having fun, you're having a good time, you can be like kind of counted on. I don't know. I think I did
Yeah.
all the things that sort of I needed to
How
do
many
to
years did you do it? Just 2 years,
like
3 years,
I
four
stayed
years,
until the end of college, so like 4 years basically, all those
4 years,
summers. And then my
and
first
up until the first year, were you did you go there as well, or yeah?
I started going when I was like 9. So yeah, I basically went there either as a
For like
camper or LT
15
or a
years.
counselor for yeah, like my entire childhood. And
Yeah,
then like
12 years. That's wild,
yeah,
man.
that's why I say it's like the reason I play music really is because of camp too. Like it was so formative, like
Yeah.
I used to play drums in this little band at camp, but then I wanted to like, not have to count on anybody. So that's like when I started learning
Yeah.
guitar. And like the first time I ever played a song on guitar in front of a crowd was at camp, and like, got a standing ovation of like 200 people. Like, most of them kids, obviously, like, most of them 10 years old, but like you get that feeling. I was like addicted. I was like right away, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm a guitar player now.
You became I'm a guitar player now.
Yeah.
What's your favorite jam? Do you have just like your favorite playlist that you rip through every once in a while, or how do you keep onto it?
I that's a good question, and I change. I always have like a new song I'm learning. Like last night, I had the song stuck in my head. Like I can see clearly now, the rain has gone. So I
You
just was
haven't
like,
learned that yet?
and I just learned it like last night, and I recorded a little video and posted on my Instagram. But like I love always learning new songs. I just learned
Yeah.
"Smells Like Teen Spirit." I've been on this really big Goo Goo Dolls kick. I don't know why, but like
You're getting
I 2 different Goo Goo Dolls songs in the last month, and now I really love the one "Name."
Nice.
If you remember that song, so I've been playing "Name" a lot.
I don't remember their names.
Oh, go on and treat yourself, Rick. Go on and
You'll
Google
have
Dolls live later today.
you'll have to sing it to us, Travis. That's
I
funny,
got
bro.
my guitar. I can play it.
That's funny, bro.
I can play it if you want to end the pod with some like live music or something. Let me know. I got the guitar right there.
What so what happened after so they stopped letting you play along with how did you keep your connection to community after that?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say like the only reason I didn't go back to camp was like the first thing I did out of college was I signed like a year-long contract for AmeriCorps. So I did a couple years of AmeriCorps, if you know what that is. But yeah, it's like like the way of doing sort of national service in the States that doesn't involve anything like in the military, right? So like
it's
I
like
did a
the
lot
National Guard or something.
Or like, yeah, it was like, I mean, originally actually it's based off of the CCC, which was like founded under FDR, which was like how we got most of our national parks, and like all the trails through our parks were made back then in like the 30s and 40s by these like national volunteer coalition. And but then AmeriCorps was sort of reborn out of that. And one of the 2 programs I did was called the NCC, which was actually like even named after like a throwback to that FDR program. So yeah, it's like it's like service with like shovels instead of guns, essentially. Or there's like some tagline that's even something similar to that. But I did a lot of rebuilding after Katrina through that.
Did they have a bunch of training? Like, did you have to? Is that how you got like, jacked the first time? Is like all those good habits of exercise and whatnot?
I'd say not so much then. Like when I mean, it's like why I fell in love with New Orleans and why I moved to New Orleans, and then I ended up getting fit for the very first time because of P90X in New Orleans.
I did it too. What did you do a course? Did you do like the course with the guys, or
like we had the DVDs in the house, and like the three house parents, like because that house we like lived in together, we had the kids living there too. So when we got them up and sent them off to school, it was like the first thing we did after we got them out the door. We were like, let's do the P90X.
It's so intense. I got it too when I wanted to get fit. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking do this,
bro.
And just I couldn't do like 30 minutes of the yoga acts. It was so intense.
It's so
it's like an hour and a half long, and I was
that yoga day was low key like the hardest day out of all of them. Yoga day was
I'm just like, how the hell am I gonna do this program? It took me so long to get fit enough to actually even be a contender.
Man, it's the real thing. And remember like Kravis Ting at Remote Year, like how I would try to always invite people to come do that workout with me, like wherever I showed up.
I don't remember Kravis. I don't know any Kravises.
gave it that stupid name. It's just my name with switching the first
I see.
letter.
Okay.
Kravis Ting. It was called like the Kravis Ting workout, and I would just like put it on like the community's calendar. Like, I meet here if you want to come work out with me. And like,
Yeah, and then you torture them with P90X.
Dude, it was just, that's what I was gonna say. It was just the first day. It was basically like, and that's what I've been doing for like 10 plus years as like a traveler who's trying to stay in shape. Like, I just
You're doing P90X every 90 days.
I do no, I do the push-up pull-up day twice a week. That's basically the two of the big days of like I go like for runs or I do yoga on the other days. But really that like Monday, Friday, I've been so consistent for like 10 years. I'm like just doing the shoulder, doing like the pull-up and push-up day from P90X that I've like changed a little bit so that
you just do it from memory. You don't actually have to watch it.
It's just a series of pull-ups and push-ups, and I have it like super locked in now, and I can do it anywhere in the world if I find like a playground even. So like it's been really good for just like staying in shape for the last forever. However long.
I've just started to like become disciplined enough in myself to exercise regularly. And I only push myself to do like a 10-minute workout because I'm still, not strong. I'm a big guy. You remember how big I am. And, throwing yourself at a workout program like that is like, I've tried it so many times and I always fail because I push myself too hard.
Yeah.
And then I won't recover well. And then I'll try and stay on schedule and I'll end up, just having like a week where I need to recover because my like ligaments are in pain or whatever. And then, taking a week off of it is,
you fall out of it.
You fall right out of it and whatever discipline you were working on just goes out the window and you're like start from ground zero again.
That was like a exact explanation for how I would have described my Spanish comprehension. I was getting like,
no entiendo.
It's like when I was taking classes and I would be like stressed about the class and then it would like just turn me off from Spanish and then I would like fall out of a rut and and now my new approach with Spanish is just doing like a little bit of Spanish every day that makes me feel like I'm not dreading it. I don't hate doing it, and every day I'm getting a little bit better with my Spanish. So anyway, it's like funny to realize it's kind of the same for what you were saying with just your workout or your health routine.
Yeah, for me it had like I had to really take control of my diet before exercise because, if you just sit there and you have a bad diet and you exercise, like you're not doing yourself any services. Right. And so like a year and a half of just being really mindful of what I'm eating and why I'm eating allowed me to actually go for a run for the first time. And I was like, holy shit, I can run. I ran for an hour one day. I was like, I didn't even know I could do this. And
it's amazing.
And so I was just like, all of a sudden I was running for an hour a day. And then, after that, it was like, okay, well, I can't go for a run on a treadmill everywhere, and going for a run on a treadmill is a lot easier because a lot of like the momentum is carried inside of the treadmill. Right. So that obviously helped. And it's, it's flat ground. So you don't have to worry about going up and down hills or through sand or, whatever. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna just incorporate this more low-key routine, and I'm still not doing it to the the full specification of the routine. Obviously, it would be more than 10 minutes if I was doing the full gamut, but I'm getting to a point where I'm doing it pretty easily. So I'll start putting more reps in and just slowly leveling it up as I go. Yeah.
There's definitely a certain point where you pass like, because it's also the thing like when you're not in shape, running feels like misery, right? But if you get yourself in shape and you pass a certain like you can like crest the top of the mountain and like it becomes fun. And like same thing with like playing guitar. I don't know. There's so many things like that, right? Where it's like not fun and then it becomes fun because you're a little bit better at it or whatever.
Well, it's kind of you realize you're like this superhero power that you have. That you thought you couldn't do before, and then one day you're doing it, and you're like, "Oh shit, I should keep doing this because I can do it now."
Feels amazing. Feels amazing.
So the NCC, that was a couple of years. You were doing that for a couple of years.
1 year. It was a 1 year contract, and I was actually a team leader. So I was like, I had like 10 people under my wing or like in my van. Basically, I was like driving a van around the coast, like building houses and stuff.
Okay.
And it was a very cool. That was most of the year. We had like one project up in Baltimore too. But we did a bunch of cool stuff. And also, like AmeriCorps is cool because it helps you with like an education reimbursement type thing, like a $5,000 that you can put back towards loans or that you can use for future education. And then it's sort of what led me. Well, that led me to like living in New Orleans at that group home where I did P90X that I was talking about. That was like kind of my first real job. I was like first just a house parent, but then I got promoted to house director. So I was kind of in charge of this house that had like between 6 and 8 kids living in it with a couple staff members. It's like a full-time.
That was like a foster home or something, or
yeah. It was called Boys Hope, Girls Hope. So it's like an NGO that's basically like I think there's like 16 or 17 around the country. So there's like Boys Hope, Atlanta, Boys Hope, Baton Rouge.
Sure.
I was the one, Boys Hope in New Orleans. So it's just cool. Like let me live in New Orleans for a couple of years. My first like real sort of salary job where I had like insurance and I was getting paid pretty well.
What was New Orleans like?
Dude, that's why I ended up taking that job. I loved it so much. I love that city. I always tell people it's my favorite place in the U.S. And it's like the one place where like you can't deny the culture is like super incredible and super strong. Where like, there's other parts of the country you don't really feel that. Or like when I travel and I'm most other places in the world, like that's what I find.
What's your basis for? Oh, okay, that's not like what you compare it to. Like, what's this place like compared to New Orleans?
No, not so much. But if I'm thinking like, like, wow, this place has it all, then because it's like, New Orleans is like incredible food, incredible music, incredible festivals, incredible traditions, incredible, like, it's just like one of those places, like, like when you're in Japan, it's like, it gives you that feeling of just like, man, this place, whatever they do it really well. It's very interesting.
Or in a unique way.
Yeah. Like I want to learn more about it. I want to be a part of it. I want to experience it. I want to taste it all or whatever. So like, that feeling is just like New Orleans just got a bunch of cool stuff.
I've always wanted to go. It's high on my to-do list. I don't really have the US on my to-do lists too highly at the moment, but I've always dreamed about New Orleans.
Yeah, it's a good spot, man. Go. And I always tell people too, like, don't feel like you need to go for Mardi Gras. Like, it's honestly like two totally different experiences. Just seeing the city and seeing how it kind of is.
It's like its own thing.
Yeah, and then going on Mardi Gras, it's like, it's like going, I don't know, it's just going to like a festival basically.
Yeah.
But going any random week in the summer and like they'll for sure be like Crawfish Fest or Strawberry Fest or whatever fest, like Saxophone Fest. There's just like a million festivals with like great free live music everywhere. It's a vibe, man. I love that city. If I lived back in the States, I'd for sure move there without question. It's like where I would end up.
So what happened after the kids home? How many years was it till remote year? How long ago was this?
So basically that group home was like my first role, like professional life kind of wise in my mid 20s. I went back to grad school then. Like, so that was part of why I mentioned the education thing. I ended the education that AmeriCorps gave me because this grad program I applied to was like, you had to have done AmeriCorps, Peace Corps, like Jesuit Corps, like some form of national service to even apply. And they took 10 people a year for this like fellowship. So I basically ended up going to Marquette, which is back in my home city, Milwaukee, for like a 2-year master's program. It's called the Trinity Fellows. So it's a pretty cool program. It was funded actually by the guy that invented and started Trek bicycles. So like that guy's from Wisconsin. He funded this program to try to like, I don't know, educate a special group of people to like do good things, hopefully stay in the area or stay local. I obviously didn't follow his wishes and I've been gone for a long time. But it's a really cool program, really cool 2 years. It was cool to be back in Milwaukee and sort of see the city from that like grown up perspective. And I was like 27, 28 during that grad program. So like, when I was in high school, that's the last time I'd lived in Milwaukee. It's not like I was going out and like enjoying like the bar scene or I don't know, any like that stuff, like the live music or whatever. So it was cool to go back and experience it like that. But then that's sort of like where the book I wrote starts is at the end of grad school. And I just was like, man, if I don't leave now, like I'm just,
you're stuck.
It's like, I'm stuck and because like whatever job I would take next, it's like I'm gonna take like a higher job that would be like definitely a couple year commitment at least, or I'd feel like I should commit or whatever. So I was like, this is my window. I could see that it was like open, and I'd always like fancied myself a world traveler, or like that I want. I always told myself I wanted to.
You've been to New Orleans, honey.
Yeah, but I was like, and I've been like I went to Africa at one point. I think that really like stoked this feeling of like, bro, that was an incredible couple months. I did that like right after my time in New Orleans before grad school. So anyway,
what was that about? Was that
was a program called
like?
I did it through a program too. It was a program called World Teach that's like run out of Harvard, but like one of my exes had done like World Teach Nairobi or something else in Africa. So she had a really good experience, and like basically I did some fundraising and applied for this program, and they put you up in like in a in a house, like, you have like parents there or whatever, like, I don't know what you'd call that, but like my
Like
African
an
family.
exchange program, kind of.
Yeah, exactly that. And gave me like 2 different volunteer things that were kind of part of my week to week that were really cool. And then yeah, that was an amazing couple months. Like I had like the best possible experience on those few months. And I also just felt so welcome is like in Cape Town, like, and like the
Oh,
Cape
sweet.
below
Is
Cape
that
Town.
where
Yeah.
that's where it was? Awesome.
Yeah, that's like where it's based out of. And like, yeah, like right away too, I was like, I played soccer in college. I've been like a drummer since I was a kid. So like, imagine showing up in Africa, you're like this big white guy, and you're just like good at football and great at hand drums. Everyone was like, bro,
Like,
you're like,
who is this guy?
like, are you
I'm from
African?
Milwaukee.
Yeah, exactly. But I just remember feeling like I fit in and was like so welcomed and so like, I don't know, I just loved the vibe there. And Cape Town still, when people ask me my favorite places in the world, it's always like in my little quick list I'll give somebody. But yeah,
Also on my to-do list. Still
Oh
haven't
yeah,
been there.
bro, top 3 city in the world for sure.
Yeah.
I love it. Like it's just hella interesting too. Like what I was kind of
It's
saying
a
about New
unique
Orleans.
place in the world. Yeah.
It's so crazy, dude. It's so beautiful. It's so interesting. The history is wild and interesting. Like obviously apartheid and all that stuff is like just so fascinating. But like, how they're trying to move on like in a good way forward and stuff. It's a fascinating as fuck place. I love it.
So what happened after that? How did we get to remote year? I want to talk about the onboarding of remote year.
Yeah, well, basically, I mean, like I can give like the onboarding of remote year was a funny time. But basically, yeah, it's like, so I finished grad school. I was telling everybody I'm going to go to South America. I flew into South America with a backpack, just like totally scared young traveler. And then basically that's like the actual start of the book I wrote. And the book covers like the next 4 years. And the book sort of ends, not to give spoilers, but like it transitions then into like, because the whole book too, like one of the struggles I'm writing about is like, well, there's 2 main struggles. It's like, disappointing my family and like just my parents being like you got a master's degree, like what are you doing? And then sorry, my dog's getting fired up. And then like also like the financial stress of like I had a little money when I left, but like at some point it was like, stopping in Hawaii or Alaska or Australia to make a little money just to keep the adventure going, but it didn't feel totally sustainable, and I didn't always know what was going to be next. So I started looking for jobs in the travel industry. So basically, yeah, that 4-year section that the book covers, that's like 4 continents, a bunch of countries. That was next. And then after
how many countries did you hit?
I think like now in my life, I'm something over 50.
No, I mean in those 4 years.
In those 4 years, I think it was probably like 30.
Oh, wow.
Because I never did Europe. In those 4 years, I just stayed away from Europe because I was trying to keep everything cheap. So I did like a lot of Southeast Asia, a lot of South America. Okay. I did like Hawaii and Alaska, which I know are like in the States, but I thought of them as like travel experiences because they're so different. Then I went to Australia as well. So I spent like a year and a half in Australia.
Oz is a little bit pricey.
Yeah, but I went on a working visa. Like I went there to try to make money. But like the first month was like torture before I could get a job. I was like, I would go to like the free section of the hostel and turn like a loaf of bread into 10 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and that's all I would eat the whole day.
That was your day or your week?
My day. Like I would do that every day. I did it like every day for like 2 weeks. Let my dog out. Hold on.
Yeah.
Calm down, bro. The neighbor's doing some landscaping, so that's what she's. But
I got my guy here too.
Hi guys. Yeah, let's let the dog say hi.
Hi guys. He was just kind of sleeping. He's like, "Why did you wake me up? I'm trying to have a nap."
Yeah, she was actually being really chill too. I was thinking about that at the beginning, like, "Oh, it's perfect," but then somebody woke her up.
What? Is she a rescue?
Yeah, I found her I met her, I should say, at a cleanup like 3 months ago, and this girl had her like tied to her leg on a surf leash and was kind of gave me the quick story of like she jumped on my moto at a gas station. She didn't have a collar. She needs a home. And this girl was going back to Germany. So she was like, I have like 1 week to figure it out. And then like by the end of that like 2-hour cleanup, I was like, this the whole time I was like, dog, like being like, that's take it. Yeah. And then I did. I was like, let me get her for a couple nights and make sure she gets along with my other dog. And once her and Rue like bonded, I was like, yeah, game over. Like you're part of the family, man. Yeah, she's great. I love her.
Hey, bro. Let's talk about the tour quickly in those 4 years, if it's not going to spoil the book.
I love talking. That's like I definitely like the most interesting wild part of my life.
Because that's like taking the leap is when you jumped, you just like threw some shit in a backpack and you're like, I'm going to Latin America. See you later.
Totally. And like one of the things I start the book with trying to like explain and like kind of give as a piece of advice. So especially for that crowd that you're talking to through the pod of like people that are maybe thinking to make the move or nervous to make the move, one piece of advice I always give people is just start saying it. Because like I said it to so many people like in that last semester of grad school. And, you know, like I had this 2-year program, but when I saw that was finishing or whatever, I just started telling everybody when I said it in my mind, it's like, I'm going to South America. Going to South America. I'd tell like the people I worked with at the bar, people I would just, you know, meet. And then, so I basically forced myself into a situation.
You built some accountability. You had to like follow through.
Yeah. I was either going to be somebody who like doesn't do what they say they were going to do, or I was going to go to South America. And like, I don't want to be somebody that doesn't say what they're going to do. So I went. And like, I remember being kind of, very nervous. Like when I first left, like not having any idea what to expect. When I got there, I showed up totally alone with the backpack and no Spanish really. And like, just tried to figure it out.
Where did you land first?
Actually, so I had a free flight from Spirit Airlines because like I bumped off like a year prior or whatever. And I remember just being like, you know, pretty happy that I had this like free flight that I could go wherever. So I actually looked up their routes at the time, and the farthest from the U.S. that they flew was Aruba, which was right above South America. So I was like, okay, I'll go to Aruba and then just try to figure out how to get to South America from there, you know? And that's what I did. So yeah. But yeah, I spent like 5 days in Aruba just being like, what am I doing here? So all like just people on like their honeymoons and shit.
Yeah.
You know? Let me get off this island and get down
that wasn't maybe the vibe you were thinking of landing on. You're like, oh, I miss my parents or my significant other, my ex.
It was weird. It was super weird vibe, actually.
I'm not even 100% sure where Aruba is. You know, like
check it out. It's called part of the ABC Islands. There's like Barbados, I think, and Curacao.
Well, I have an idea about Barbados, but
they're all just right above
Aruba.
Right above Venezuela.
Venezuela? Okay.
Right above Colombia and Venezuela. And so like actually, it was like one of the moments I wrote in the book too is like I was walking all the big marina and talking to all the boats. Like, are any of you guys taking the boat to Venezuela? Because it's literally like I think it's like 10 nautical miles. It's not far.
Stone,
So I was like, are any of these boats going to Venezuela? I want to lift. And this old Venezuelan guy who was on Aruba was like, if you go to Venezuela, you're playing with your life. And I was like, oh, okay, so I guess I shouldn't go there. He's like, dude, do not go to Venezuela. And I was like, okay. So like, you know.
Oh, wow, it is close. Wow, it's closer than I thought it was.
Yeah, and I was trying to be like this tough, young, new backpacker. Like, I can go wherever. Like, the world's open. I'm going to go try. But this guy was like, don't do that. Like, be brave and go confidently go travel. But like, don't do it in Venezuela, you know? So it definitely
interesting. I'm surprised you got that advice back then because I thought
from a Venezuelan guy too. Yeah.
I thought it was better back then before all the shit went down, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this would have been what, like 2013.
Okay.
Like that. So like,
well, it's not too long ago.
Pretty rough then. Yeah. I think they at that point were like starting to have their curfews and.
So no, I had a friend who was supposed to do an exchange program in high school, so that would have been like 2000, and that's kind of when the shit went down. You know, they pulled the plug on foreigners in Venezuela around then. So. Yeah, 2013 was like 10 years later.
After, exactly. So it must have been even, a little more hectic. But yeah, it's a shame. Like I've met so many like people from Venezuela that I think are cool.
Totally, yeah.
So many beautiful women. Like the women, I just like, it's like an incredible, cool place to go see. And like I've also just heard from people from Venezuela like how gorgeous certain parts, like certain beaches, certain national parks are. So it's kind of a shame though. Like it's not.
Yeah. It's a locals only kind of vibe. So did you go to Medellin or to Colombia instead?
Yeah, I remember taking like a little puddle jumper plane. It's like I think it's called Rio Hacha or something, but it's like basically the northeastmost city with an airport in Colombia. Essentially, I think I just took the shortest little flight I could, and then ended up in the first place. I really kind of felt like, oh, this is what's up. Is not Cartagena. It's like Santa Marta. If you're looking at the map. That's like, the first place I ended up basically that had like hostels and like a backpacker culture. Cause I wasn't, even familiar with any of that at the time, but I remember checking into this place called the Dreamer and like dropping my bag on like my bunk. And I went to the pool and there's like 10 people all just in the pool, drinking beers, chatting. I was like, this is awesome. I fucking love this. It's like, this is fun, man. And then, in my mind, when I was going on the trip, I was like, I'm going to like do some woofing and like work on a farm. And I think it was like within that first 2 hours of the Dreamer that I was like, nah, I'm a backpacker for sure. Like, this is what I'm
they were your prototypes.
Yeah. It was like, and like, it's like cooked the family dinner together that night, and then like made a plan to go see like a coffee plantation the next day. And I was just like, yeah, this is such a cool, like inclusive, exciting vibe. We're like planning adventures with new friends, and it's just amazing, right? So I stayed there for a week. Most of that group went together to Cartagena, and then I said goodbye to them there. And I remember having like a moment where I was like, oh no, like, am I gonna
I'm
ever
alone
make
again.
friends again? Yeah, and then like and then like I met Brian, who becomes like a main character in the book and stuff in Medellin, and him and I traveled together basically all the way down together through Bolivia.
He was another traveler?
He was like a, at the time, he was like a 20-year-old Irish guy that was like taking like a gap year from starting like a real accountant job. Or no, he was like 22, 23. He like would have started his first real professional job after undergrad, but he wanted to hit the pause button. So he got like a deferment for a year from the accounting firm that had hired him. And so he was like, I'm going to travel for this year. And him and I just became like brothers. I actually just went to his wedding last year. So we're still super close. But yeah, we collected people and ended up like as an 8-person travel family by the end of that first section of the book, like going all down.
That's cool.
Dude, it was like, you could not imagine a better, like just first time going out in the world and like trying to figure out what backpacking and traveling is like. Like I flew home for that Christmas. That first trip was 5 months, and I flew home. And I remember like being on the way home to see my family for Christmas, just like knowing for sure, like I'm going to disappoint all these people again. Like they're going to not love that. Like what I tell them is like, I can't wait to book a flight the fuck out of here.
Isn't it funny? Yeah. My family was the same thing. They just thought that I spent a year like on beaches and not working, and they don't realize how much of a grind it is,
Yeah. And how good it is, like how addicting it can be. I don't know. It's like, when you get a taste of it, it's like so hard to imagine going back to just sort of like a stagnant, like a life in the States where you're just, like living in a suburb somewhere and working a 9 to 5. Like it just becomes impossible to even imagine. Like, why would you ever do that once you kind of crack the code and realize you can leave,
Yeah. And there's like, once you start, it's just like you have this curiosity about everywhere else, right? In the last podcast, Fiorella, she asked me like, where's your favorite place? And my response, like without even thinking, was every place I've never been yet.
Yeah.
Just like super curious about the next spot,
That's a great answer, man. I always think of it too, like what people think of, who aren't travelers, people think of traveling as like checking a bunch of boxes, but it's actually like you're checking some while slowly, while adding a ton way faster.
It's like going to New Orleans for what's the event called?
Mardi Gras?
For Mardi Gras, you're not actually going to New Orleans. You're just going for Mardi Gras.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a never-ending list of like things and curiosities and places, and like even all the places I've been, I'm a pretty slow traveler. I know you are as well. So it's like, I'm usually a month or more in every place I end up, but it's like all of those, and I've been back to like, say like Vietnam like 4 or 5 times now. I've been to a lot of places I like multiple times too. And like, I don't know, but it's still like, if I was going to go back to Vietnam, I'd be so stoked, and there's so many things I could still see that I didn't get to see the first time.
So I mean, you just have to go down different streets and like look for where there's a bunch of locals hanging out, and that's your spot. Just follow the people.
Yeah. the steamy noodles and the crowded little street carts or whatever.
So what happened after Colombia? You just like cruised down the coast, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia kind of thing, or?
Slowly picked up some people. I fell in love with this Australian girl named Lisa. We did a bunch of, we did like all the main stuff you're meant to do. Like, we did Machu Picchu, we did the Coca Canyon, we surfed in Montanita, we did like the equator was actually like a surprisingly very fun, interesting thing that I didn't know was going to be so like just outside of Quito. Yeah, we can do it as like a day trip, but there's a fake equator and a real equator, and that's the part that's interesting. Like the government basically built up like a little, Disneyland type
tourist
vibe. Around this like equator marker that's like this huge pillar. But when we were leaving there, this guy was like, "Did you go see the equator?" And we were like, "Bro, we were just there." And he was like, "No, that's not the equator, dude." And we were like, "Well, where is it?" It's like half a kilometer up the road. There's a museum called this, and like that is where the equator is, and like they'll prove it to you. And I was like, "What?" And you go there, and like they do all these like scientific things that like
you just like go a foot this way and this happens, and you go a foot that way and that happens.
They do it with like a basin of water and like crushed leaves, and like this way the leaves spin this way, this way the leaves spin the other way, and they put it right on the line, and the leaves all just go. And you're like, bro, it's wild.
Wild.
Like, equator,
That's wild.
So crazy, dude. You can balance an egg on the head of a nail too.
What happens if you take the bowl like from one side while it's draining and move it all, like?
Yeah, dude. Actually, that's a good
I'm
question.
so curious.
I'd be very curious
I
to see
have
what
questions. I have questions.
there's some weird shit too. Like where I remember they said like, okay, like close your eyes and hold your arms out in front of you and close your eyes and like try to not let me knock you off balance. And like the slightest touch, you'll like fall over. It's super
Really?
weird, like what the magnetic force is doing when you're right on the middle of it.
Wow.
It's
Yeah, your
it's a
body
very
just
cool
can
thing.
sense it.
Yeah. And like there's no denying it either. That's why I was like the whole
No.
flat earther thing. I was like, guys, just
Go
don't get clear.
there.
This
Yeah.
is not
How
like
about get in an airplane? You know, like
yeah, also that. Yeah.
it's like if you've never left your city, you have no right to even talk about this topic.
Yeah. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
million good
Yeah.
arguments against why the Earth cannot be flat, but like I find
Did
that
you
like
go?
funny too, like, people
Sorry, go
saying
ahead.
like, "Do you think the Earth's flat? Do you think all the other planets are flat too?" Then just like then an image of the
No,
solar
they've
system,
been observed.
planets.
They've
It's
been
so
observed to be round. That's what you hear.
yeah.
Did you go into the Amazon at all?
So in the end of the trip back down in Bolivia, we went to the Bolivian Amazon in this little town called Rirambake, which is like a fucking mission to get to, dude. It's like either like a kind of expensive flight, or like you can rent the Jeep. We luckily had a good group of people, like 6 or 7 of us that wanted to go. So we like paid a driver to drive us, but it was still like, it's like 15 hours on like shitty roads, just like getting bounced around in the back of a
It's
truck.
like Ace Ventura, like
Just, I actually still remember like my Irish buddy Brian was like sleeping and we were all looking at him like, fuck you. Like, how are you sleeping? Yeah. He's just like, this classic, like hilarious drunk Irish dude. He's just like passed out.
He was just drunk, yeah.
Like, I don't know in that, but it's like you could.
He Irish exited, but not with his body. He just his mind left.
I'm gonna wake up when we get to the rainforest. But that was cool because they had like pink river dolphins, capybaras, monkeys, anacondas. We saw like some crazy nature down there. It was very, very cool.
How are dolphins up there? Isn't it like really high of elevation?
So the dolphins are like, I mean, it must, it's like brackish water where they're like, I think it's like somewhat salinated, and they over time they became like pink too. So they're like these weird sort of famous dolphins for being like these pink river dolphins. Super strange.
I didn't know there were like inland dolphins.
Yeah, and that's actually like I don't think there's any freshwater dolphins, right? So this must have been some type of like combination of water. But I think Rirambake must have, maybe there's like access to. I want to look up where Rirambake is now too on a map actually. Rirambake, yeah, exactly. This little town, but yeah, you can see like the river there. So maybe that's like, I don't know, dude. Maybe they are just straight up river dolphins. Straight up. But anyway, it was a very cool experience. I'd recommend that 100% to anybody. Lake Titicaca was cool if you ever cross over from Peru into Bolivia. Like Lake Titicaca is like the border basically. But so yeah, you can transfer from one country to the other by going like having this cool experience on Lake Titicaca. But yeah, then like that trip ended with like most of that group carrying on into like Chile and stuff. But I had my flight back to that to see my family and everything for the holidays. So like
for Christmas,
for Christmas.
And then what? January 1st, back on a plane?
Yeah, I think that like first week of January.
You went to Southeast Asia? Oh, you
went
to Mexico.
Yeah, I'd like skipped all, because I started that trip in South America. So I went to Mexico, went down through Central America.
Okay. You did.
And actually that trip I got stuck on the island of Utila, if you've ever heard of that. It's like a pretty famous place for scuba diving. So I kind of knew from talking to that like I would go there to do my open water course, at least like the first course, because it's like famously fun and famously cheap, and like everything. Basically, like the main street of that island is like bar, dive shop, restaurant, dive shop, bar, dive shop, dive shop. It's just like all diving, and that's like all people are there basically because it's in like the Pan American Reef System, so it's like really good diving, really good wildlife. But it's an island off of Honduras, so I ended up there. And
you got stuck there for a while.
Yeah, I stayed. Like I did my open water, and like the school really liked, I think, just like having me around, and they're always trying to also get more people like to get into these longer programs. So they gave me just like an incredible deal to go from open water all the way through my dive master. Like I think I paid like $1,000 total for like the next 3 or 4 courses, like rescue, advanced, and then the dive master course. Like any one of those courses in the US would be like double that price, right? So I was just like, here, I like this. They like having me around. Like
you were probably like a lure for other tourists too, like running around bars, just like jacked out of your tree. There's so much energy, bro.
I mean, I did start like I became I had a joke of like
the ambassador. You're like the Utila ambassador for the dive shop.
or I was calling myself like the unelected social chair, where it's like nobody
Yeah.
gave me this job or whatever, but like I'm telling myself I am. So I started throwing
You
parties.
found yourself in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun, man. And then we had like 6 of us that were going through the dive masters together. So they're trying to do that too, like create like a little cohort, like a little family that's going through it all together. Because then at the end, there's like the whole snorkel test, like the big ritual. I don't know if you've ever heard of that in the diving world, but like when
No.
you finish your dive master, there's this like really like no matter where you are in the world, whatever dive school you're a part of, there's a snorkel test as like a tradition for like you get the certificate, but like that's you're not a dive master until you actually go through the snorkel test. The
Mhm.
most basic version is you put a snorkel in your mouth, and then like the people that were your instructors through the program just pour shit down your snorkel, and you just continue to consume it, whatever it is. And it's usually
Yeah.
like
Alcohol of some
sausage,
kind,
tequila,
hopefully.
yeah, like baked beans and whatever the fuck, it's like they're just pouring shit in your snorkel. And other schools have other variations, like there's one where like they fill a mask with beer and you have to like drink it through your nose. So
Oh
like
God.
you have to like snort the beer out of the mask.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's like one of those. It's like fraternization or like a frat, like doing like their shit kind of. It got that feeling to it, but then as soon as it's over, it's like big hugs and you feel like you accomplished it.
Yeah.
So that was a great chapter.
What did you do through? What spots did you hit in Central? Other than
I went down
Honduras
Mexico, but just kind of straight into Guatemala. So I never got over to Puerto or Mexico
or
City, or
Belize?
some of the places I love most now in Mexico. But I went, through like San Cristobal. It was my first time going there, which is still one of my favorite places in Mexico. Then into Guatemala, I did some of the volcanoes and all like Tikal, some of the cool parts of Guatemala, Antigua, Lake Atitlan, all those spots, which are really, really legendary. Then I ended up in Belize and did Cape Culker. If you know Belize, like Cape Culker is one of my favorite little island towns. That's another place where like I thought I'd go for 3 days and I ended up staying there for like 10 and just like fell into a great hostel scene there where like it was just so fun.
I'm
And
hearing good things about Belize. It wasn't really on my radar until recently.
they also do like I think they also have USD, so like the current like the
They
exchange rate.
it's like an old English colony, right? So everything's in English as well.
Yeah.
Everybody probably speaks English. Makes it easy.
Yeah, there's some things about it that felt easy and like fun. It's a really fun place. It's kind of small though. It's like I think I spent like that biggest section of my time there in Kikalker, and then checked out some other places on my way south, and then took a boat to Honduras. Did a little bit in Honduras, but then basically ended up on Utila, which is an island of Honduras. And I didn't make it any further south on that trip. I ended up going back to see more stuff in Central America. Like now I've spent time in Nicaragua now. I've done Costa Rica. I've done Panama and some other places. But like, that first trip, I just made it to Honduras and then stopped and did my dive master, which was very cool.
Sweet.
And that's actually where I met a lot of people on Utila who you treated it like they were there for a lot of the year, but they were, I met like 3 or 4 people there that did Alaska as like their way to make all their money. And then they would spend the rest of the year traveling. They would just like work really hard in the summers in Alaska.
On an oil rig or something?
Or like fishing boats. Most of them were working on fishing boats or fisheries where it's like, the boats are all bringing you the fish and you're just there like, there's like that Simpsons episode. It's like chopping the head of the fish off and like putting it in the fucking or whatever.
The warehouse or whatever.
Yeah. So that's what put that in my head, and then that's how I ended up going to Alaska that summer.
Oh, really? You did a gig like that?
Yeah, I did. Like my fishing dreams didn't work out like that. I did get a job on a boat. Like really, luckily, I remember being so fucking happy about getting a job, and in my mind, I thought I was gonna make like
Do you wish you could launch your business without the need of VC investment? How would having a full board of chief executives by your side change your business? We're talking about a CEO, a CTO, a CMO, a CPO, a CCO, a COO, a CLO, and a CFO. It's an easy way to add $100,000 per month burn rate to your business. Did you know that you could have all those people on your team for as little as $2,000 per month? A fractional is a part-time, fully embedded leader. The only difference between a fractional and their full-time counterpart is that they're part-time. They have senior level domain expertise. They have a strong record of leading people and organizations. Their outcome is capably building and driving sustainable growth for the long term. They're fully accountable for the business results and operating on a day-to-day rate or retainer. And they operate as a business leader at a fraction of their full-time capacity. Any small to medium-sized business, startup, or scale-up on a budget can benefit from a fractional expertise and experience to help them survive or thrive. That's what we do. We've helped countless entrepreneurs over the last 20 years build their products and help them position themselves for years. We've tried hourly pricing or fixed pricing and value pricing, and it's always expensive when you are bootstrapping. To come up with $20,000 to $50,000 to implement a scope of work. That's why we've switched to subscription pricing, so that you only have to pay for what you need when you need it. When you need us a little, we are there for you a little. When you need us a lot, we are there for you a lot. When you sign up by September 1st, you get started for only $250. Build the company of your dreams without selling your soul to investors. Beeline it straight for product market fit, start delivering value to your customers, and get earnings as soon as possible to pay for your business instead of ruining your cap table. My guarantee, meet with me for 1 month, and if you do not see the value in continuing, you can cancel at any time. No obligation to continue after your first month. What do you have to lose? You're going to have to spend millions of dollars to build your company. $250 to have a leader by your side from the start is an extremely great value. When it comes to time to increase the need for that leader, you're already plugged into the best pricing possible for our subscription model. Sign up today.
Works really well.
Yeah, I mean it's open source, and so that's why I use it. They don't, you don't have to pay Google or Zoom or whoever to get into it. And I used it when for my last product company when we had to go kind of virtual in 2020.
Okay.
We started integrating it in our ticket system so that you could easily like have tickets and then the event and all that kind of all in one package. And
Nice.
yeah, it gives you all the tools to do video conferencing without a lot of limits. And so yeah, I use it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, works great.
So fishing, back from our sponsors, me
Yeah.
basically. So fishing didn't work out.
Yeah,
What
fishing. I spent a month on the boat, and like
did you
the
hate it?
I
It was like,
actually I found myself like enjoying it, or just like knowing that I was like doing something weird. Like, but it was like it
yeah.
was strange. We woke up like every morning at 6 a.m. to catch the announcement from like the Fish and Wildlife Commission in Alaska, and they'd be like,
Okay.
"Sorry to say again, but like they do like really good tracking of like how many salmon are coming up the river for like future population control and all this other stuff." And there's like
Mhm.
wasn't enough salmon. Like, so part of the
Oh,
reason it was
you
was
just
a
had a
failure
tough year.
was that, and then the other part was like that my captain, like the reason I got a shot on this boat was because this guy was like a former captain. He'd like moved back to Wyoming for like 10 years, and then he decided to like go have a go at it again. So like he had a new boat, brand new boat, really nice boat, but like he was rusty as like a captain. So like
Yeah,
he was fucking up left, right, and center. The conditions weren't great, like in the bay. This is
yeah.
the same bay that like Deadliest Catch just filmed in. Like one of our boats that we dropped our fish at was like the time
Okay.
bay. It was like a famous boat. It was weird to have like a starstruck reaction to like a boat. I was like, oh, I know that boat. Um, but anyway,
Where
it was
was it
cool.
out of? Where was it out of?
Neck was like the town I flew into, so it's like Bristol Bay is like the name of the bay. Yeah, it's a
Bristol
really
Bay.
famous place in the world for fishing. Very very interesting experience for sure. But like we caught like thousands of pounds of fish for one, so like it's not like it was a full failure. But we didn't
Yeah.
catch enough for like the contracts you sign as like a new deckhand is like you pay 7% of the gas, 7% of the food, but you get 7% of the catch. Normally on a good boat, that means you're making like 10K. But like for us, at the end of the like we got back to land after being a month
So you
at
had
the
to invest in the boat.
I didn't put anything up front, but it was like the idea that like when we do the final math and we sell all the fish, you're gonna have to
Oh,
account for
I
7%.
see. I
So
see. So
it's like a
it's like a
the math.
dividend or something at the
Yeah.
end. Okay,
And then
cool.
the captain Bill came over. He was like, "Hey, so I did the math. It's not great. I think I'm actually gonna take a little loss, but like, just so you know, like you're not gonna make anything, but you can keep those boots because he like bought me some boots." And I was like, "All right, I guess I worked for a whole month on the ocean and I got a pair of boots basically."
All I got were these stinky boots. They're
Yeah,
probably
the
pretty stinky
boots
at
are
the
here
end.
actually in the house. I still have the boots. I feel like I have to hold on to them forever.
So what happened after that? Did you go home? You have to go home
Then
again?
then I was trying to salvage. Like I still wanted to like make some money to keep going. Like in like in the
You
direction of
wanted
just
to go
adventure
over
somewhere.
to Asia, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to like, I wanted to not like fold. Like, it's at that point, it's like, if I can't figure out how to make money, I'm going to like go back to Wisconsin with my tail between my legs and just admit to my family and everybody that like, yep, that was just like a weird trip. Like it was a chapter, but in my mind, it was starting to become like my lifestyle. And like, I didn't want to go back to like searching job boards on like monster.com for like a fucking nonprofit job or something. So I was like, I don't want to do that. And I want to just keep going. But basically, yeah, after that, I had got an email from this one kayak company, and like, I basically at that point I didn't have much experience, but I was like, I'm a camp counselor, like I know how to like take kids on canoe trips, and I'm a pretty athletic person, so like if you can give me a shot to like show that I can be a kayak guide, I'd love the chance. When I got off the boat, I had an email from them in my inbox. I was like, hey, one of our guides quit mid-season. If you still think you can come make it down, we'll give you a trial. And I took the next train to Seward, and I was on the water the next day, getting flipped into the like freezing cold ocean
that's
again,
wicked.
for like training. And yeah, I got the job there, and then I got a job in Seward like as a waiter. So like basically at some point within like 2 weeks, I'd figured out how to make money 2 different ways, and I like stacked paper as fast as I could. Stayed for like 3 months in Alaska until some point in September. Like the summer's actually really nice in Alaska, but then at some point in September it starts raining just like every day. So like it rained every day. We couldn't kayak. Things got a little bit stale, and then my girlfriend Sunny at the time and I decided to move to Hawaii. So we like went together to Hawaii.
Sick.
And then there's also this weird connection. There's a lot of people that like, and the flights between Hawaii and Alaska are super cheap, and there's a lot of people that just like spend their life in those two places because they're both very cool. And like, Alaska is really enjoyable in those summer months, but I can't really imagine it when there's only like 1 hour of sunlight in the middle of the winter, like brutal. But anyway, I don't know that.
If you're
part.
doing remote work, you're basically sitting in the dark anyway. Yeah.
True. But like, yeah, man, I don't know. Like, and I remember this about Alaska. It's like when people would ask me, I'd be like, oh yeah, I've been here all summer working on the boat, whatever. Like their first question would be like, have you ever been here for winter? And if I'd be like, no, they'd be like, well, then you don't know Alaska. Like, it's like every Alaskan person is like, you're not Alaskan unless
You've never been to hell.
Yeah. Just like you haven't earned it. Like you don't get to say you're like Alaskan at all. Like not until you spend.
If you don't have a pet black fly, you're not one of us.
Yeah, dude, it's that. Yeah, you see people like chopping wood in like August, and you'd be like, "What is it?" Yeah, and they'd be like, "Yeah, preparing for the winter." It's like winter's coming. They're like all summer. They're like, "Yeah, it's nice, but we know what the fuck's coming." So like, let me chop this fucking wood up so that I can have like a fire burning all winter, man. I think it's like brutal. But anyway, and then Hawaii was great. Like I went there, got a job on the organic dragon fruit farm. So Sunny and I got really lucky. We found this like volunteer gig. We lived in like a tent on a farm for a while, but like they fed us well. I got a job scooping gelato in town. We were in Lahaina in Maui, and it was really
I've
really
been there.
Yeah, it was amazing. They had a huge fire recently. Actually, I'm pretty sad about that. I watched.
Yeah, the whole town's like different.
The main street and stuff got like mostly burned out or whatever. It's super shitty.
It was really cute place.
Yeah, I love that. Like the banyan tree, like in that one park. It's like one of the biggest trees ever found on Earth.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a picture under it. Yeah.
Super beautiful spot.
Is that gone? That would be a shame.
I think the fires were around there, but I'm hoping the tree obviously survived it all. I think it must have because of how big it was. But yeah, the gelato shop I worked at was right across from that banyan tree, and like the farm was just down the coast a bit. I went there in September, stayed until the holidays again. So like, I planned a lot of my travels around this loose idea of like go home and see everybody for Christmas. And my good buddies that I grew up with, we all took a trip right after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, like every year. So we've been doing that trip for like 15 plus years now. So for those two reasons, like see my family, see those guys, it always felt worth it to go home. So I committed to that, and then went home. And after that, when
Asia.
No, I actually did Australia because I was still in the position where like I made a little money in Hawaii, I made a little money in Alaska, but I was never looking at my bank account like, oh, okay, I got $10,000, I can go travel. I was like, I have $1,000, I can do something to figure out how to make money again, like one thing. So that's why I was like, I paid for like a work visa in Australia and then bought a flight to Australia, and I got there with like, I think around less than $1,000 in my account after that.
Did you have to find the job after you got there? Like, do you get the work visa first and then find the work, or do you have to? Okay.
Yeah, dude, and like I was in a hostel in like downtown Melbourne. There's like 20 kids around with their computers open. Everybody's there just looking for jobs. Like everybody's there like trying to figure out how to get that Alaskan or that Australian paycheck. It's like
Aussie dollars.
They pay good, yeah. If you get a job, like you can sit in a candy store and make $30 an hour. Like they pay everybody so well in Australia. But like,
wasn't the cost of living high too, though?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, exactly. Like it makes sense if you are. If Australia is
Yeah.
a great place to be or whatever if you're earning and spending. But if you're just there,
Mhm.
it's like a tourist. I think it's like the dumbest place in the world you can go.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna go
Like I
broke and
remember,
like
I remember like Skydome prices, like ballpark prices for a beer. You know,
dude.
like a tall boy was like $10 Aussie, which is like $15 Canadian. I'm
Yeah,
just like, how can people afford to live here? This is wild.
it's the kind of place where like yeah, like if you can make it work for you. Like at some point I was in Melbourne for a bit. I did some traveling through the middle, like with the money I was able to make in Melbourne. Ended up being a kayak guide again in Byron Bay, and that's like really where I fell in love with like that place. And like I had
Mm.
that job. I was working at a cafe like 2 or 3 nights a week, and then I was also like running all the events at this party hostel that I was living at. So I had like 3 ways to make money. And like when I figured that out, I was like, killing it. I was like stacking money
Yeah.
and I was doing good. And I was like, that was the goal, right? So I felt
Yeah.
so happy and I liked all 3 jobs. But it really is this kind of place where like, say I'm at the cafe working like a night shift and somebody's like, hey, do you want to leave now or stay the extra hour? It's like if I had left, I'd go to the bar. If I stayed, I'd make the money. It's like an $80 swing. Like that choice is like
Yeah.
$80, like 1 hour. It's fucking
Yeah.
crazy because like it's a land of like boom or bust basically when it comes to
Yeah.
financial stuff there. So it's like if you could just put your nose down and work, it could
Just
work
get it
out for you.
done.
But like if
Do
you're
it.
if you're going to the bar and buying a round of drinks for your buddies, you're like down $100.
No.
It's fucking
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's better to not have friends, Travis.
Yeah, right. Like what we did, all of us that were really close were just living in the hostel. We would like buy, like $5 bottles of white wine and just like
Yeah.
drink white wine on the back porch of the
Yeah.
hostel and like roll
Some
cigarettes.
PBRs, a 2-4 PBRs, as we say in Canada.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably
just
don't
whatever
have
the
PBR
cheapest way.
there.
Cheapest way.
Old Milwaukee,
I
just
do
like
love.
home.
I love old Milwaukee. I love PBR, man.
So what,
Classic.
after Oz was you're so close to Asia, that's when Southeast Asia
Yes.
happened?
Yeah, and like one of the best stories in the book for sure is like getting like got like forcibly deported from Australia. So like it was a pretty hectic
Oh no.
moment. And like that deportation, I wound up in Asia. Like I wound up in Kuala Lumpur. So then
Mhm.
but like, and I remember being nervous, like that they were gonna like realize the money I made was somewhat illegal because like when I overstayed my work visa by like 6 months, and I was there on like a visa. I was there on a tourist visa, but I was definitely working, so I was like breaking the terms of my tourist visa,
Oh,
and they got me, and they deported me. They threw me in jail for a few days and then deported me.
oh. I thought you
That's
had
like
a work visa. Didn't you say you had a work visa? I guess you just
yeah
said it.
yeah
Oh, you
yeah.
had
It
a
was
work
like
visa first and then
yeah, it expired. Like it was a year long.
okay.
And then
And
but like I
then
love it. That's also, I was like
did you
cooking it
have
off
to
of these
did you
jobs.
have to do a leap to get your tourist visa? You leave and come back or
Yeah. I actually went all the way home for like the holidays again. And like,
oh.
and for this girl at that moment too, I was dating this woman named Meg and I really thought things were going to work out. So like at that point, I actually was sort of settled in my mind of like, okay, my travel time is over. I'm going to move to Madison, Wisconsin and like live with this woman and we're going to get married or whatever. Like that's kind
Yeah.
of the future I was thinking of. But then like that
Yeah.
lasted like all of like 2 weeks and it was like kind of depressing.
No.
I remember going back, like my dad picked me up at the bus station because things with Meg didn't work out. And that night at his house in like back in Milwaukee, I wrote all 3 of my bosses in Australia. It's like, if I came back just like on a tourist visa, would you guys still like be comfortable with that? Like, could I still have the job? Or you just like pay me cash? All 3 of them wrote me back within an hour. Like, yeah, mate, we miss you. Come back. And I was like, okay. So like that night before going to bed, I booked a flight back to Australia. And then as soon as I got back, dude, I was back and I was happy. I like was in a kayak like the next day, like chasing
Oh,
dolphins, like under the sun, like back in Australia. And it was so fucking
ama-
good. I was so happy
amazing.
when I went back actually. But then yeah, I knew I had 6 months of that tourist visa and I knew that I was breaking the rules, but like I didn't really care. It's like whatever. I'm just
Uh-huh.
working jobs that like
So
all
you were
want me.
there legally, but you just weren't supposed to be working,
Yes.
and so when they forcibly like, did they show up? Like, did they catch you when you were trying to leave,
They caught me when I
or
was trying to get back in. I went to see like one of my best friends in Thailand. He had been on a big trip and he was like, "Hey, I have like more money left than I thought I would at this point and I'm treating the hotel or whatever. If you can come for like the week, like let's party." There's like 3 other guys coming from Chicago. So we had like this like little wolf pack that we that's what we were calling ourselves. Like this big like, week long sort of just like roving party all over like the Thai islands. And
yeah,
I had just like a little backpack on me and like all my other stuff was like in my apartment in Byron Bay in Australia. Like my computer, everything else I owned was like in that apartment. And when I was
oh
coming
no,
back from that trip to Thailand, that's when they like threw me in jail. They like stopped me.
no,
Yeah, yeah. And like I was aware that it was going to be dicey,
no
so like
problem.
I had like deleted everything off of my Instagram and Facebook that showed anything relating to work in Australia. But like
Yeah,
in the end, they like did some good detective work. They like found old they found like 8-month-old text messages or like 6-month-old text messages referencing like I'm on the water today with some girl that I was like kind of just like trying to like, I don't know, ghost. And anyway, then they put that together and they like found the Facebook pages of the 2 kayak companies that exist in Byron and found my photos on those pages. And like, we're like, what do you know? And I was like, fuck. So yeah, they revoked my visa, put me in handcuffs, put me in jail, put me on a flight back to Kuala Lumpur. And then that's how I got back to Asia.
I love KL.
Me too.
Yeah. Did you stay there for a while or?
I stayed there actually, yeah, because when I showed up too, I realized I had like lost my debit card. So I basically showed up there waiting for like the Australian bank to send its debit card to this hostel. So I had to like wait like at least like a week or two. So I was just in KL with like minimal cash, just like living off a credit card, trying to just like, you know, get over the fact that like I couldn't go back to my life in Australia and that like my girlfriend was there sad. So yeah, I was a bit of a stressful time. But then at some point, like, you know, I remember telling my parents about it. All 3 of like my bosses who I was close with were like, dude, don't worry about it. Like I was worried that they were going to get in trouble with immigration or something. You know, I was worried there was consequences for other people, but they all wrote me like, dude, no worries. Like I'm not scared of the goons at immigration. I still remember that was from an email. Yeah.
No worries, mate. We're not scared of the goons.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was like, bro, what am I stressed about? Like, I still have the money in my bank account that I made. Yes, I made it illegally, but like I still have it. They didn't take it. And like now I'm just in Asia with my backpack. Like this is fucking great.
Let's go.
Yeah. It was stressful, but it was in the end I was like just a backpacker back in Asia. So then that's sort of like the end of the book. That's the last continent. The book's broken up into 4 continents, right? So then continent 3 was Australia. I get to continent 4 in Asia. And back in Asia, like I'm just a backpacker. I was a bit on like Workaway and some of the volunteer websites of like trying to find a different reason or whatever to go somewhere to just like places, to go like meet some people, do some volunteer work, lower your costs for that 2 weeks or whatever. So that dictated some of my travels, but I was also just like, you know, you look at Southeast Asia, it's like God sneezed on a map and like you just like want to see it all. Like I was like, I want to see all of this. So like I was just trying to.
Did you get a scooter or anything? How did you get around?
I mean, I normally took like, you know, overnight buses to get from country to country, but like in every place that I would try to rent a scooter, especially if I was somewhere a little longer. Okay. But yeah, I was just connecting by like a lot of overnight buses and just. Going all over. Like
what was the tour? What was the route you took?
You know, like I almost like look through the chapters in the book in order to make sure I get this part right. But I know for sure I went everywhere besides Laos, like all the major stops. Like I even did like Myanmar, Thailand. I did the Philippines for a bit, Indonesia for a while.
Philippines is like hard to do. There's like 1,000 islands.
Yeah. I did like the main ones. Like I flew into Manila. I got to see Bohol, which is sort of famous. And then I actually did like a 2-week-long volunteer thing in Tacloban, which is one of their bigger cities, but it had been like fucked up by this typhoon. Mm-hmm. So like I went there and helped rebuild some of the community or whatever, and it was cool. That was a cool time. So yeah, I was just trying to see as much as I could basically, and I don't know. But then like popping all over, and then eventually like the end of that section of the book, it's like remote year flew me from Myanmar to like Koh Phangan, because that's where they had their first program ever. First group, yeah, it was like month 9 or something of that first group, and they were like, "Come over, meet the group. We wanted to like do some more interviews in person." I'd done a couple virtual interviews for getting a program job. They flew me there to be like, "Let's talk about." So
you found them while you were in Philippines?
I found them when I was in actually Indonesia. I was the longest volunteer stretch I did was at this place on Gili Meno called the Eco Hostel, and like Gili Meno doesn't have any hostels. It's the only hostel, but it's this weird place made out of pretty much entirely bamboo. And I remember like walking down the road every day to like the nicer sort of like resort that had decent Wi-Fi, and would post up and like I just started looking for travel jobs. You know, I was like, I gotta find something. So like, and remote year was really just like showing up on my Facebook, like targeting me for ads, because at that point I had been a traveler for a while, and it was like, this guy's a traveler, let's target the shit out of him. But yeah, then I emailed them as just a cold email, like, hey, this is me. This is my experience. Do you guys have any jobs for somebody like me? And then they were like, maybe you could be a program leader. We're hiring for groups 2 and 3. And I was like, bet. And I just like committed. Like when I found out there was like, they opened the door an inch. I was like, I'm getting in there, dude. I'm getting. Yeah. So yeah, it worked out great.
Which group do you have Cousteau or?
I had Cousteau, yeah. So they hired like
3. Yeah,
they hired like Jason, Dave, myself, and Sam sort of in one batch. And then I think they like paired us and put us in those groups like in the way that they thought made most sense. because actually I still remember I was already hired when they hired Jason, because like Trish, who used to become one of my best friends and was my boss for a couple of years, she described meeting Jason, and it was like, and I was like, Trish, I think you know that it's like it's the right person. She was like, still remember she described it as like, you ever been like at an airport bar and like the person next to you just like, I could chat to you for forever. Like I miss my flight chatting to you.
Yeah.
She's like, he's just got that kind of vibe. And it's like, hire that guy. He sounds fucking awesome for like a program leader, you know? And Jason's one of my best friends still too. So like, yeah, I was like, that worked out great. All three of us were super good friends still. But yeah, it was a cool time, man. It was like back super startup vibes. Like, you know,
was the onboarding really easy back
it was
then?
cool. It was actually fucking awesome because like I did the stuff in person in Thailand to like kind of try to win the job. They made me wait for like 2 weeks. It was a painful 2 weeks. I was like still traveling, just being like, this better fucking happen, you know? And like, you know, read the book if you want to find out like that story, because it's like kind of how the book starts to wrap up. But it was a really like one of the best moments of my whole life.
Where did they stay in Copenhagen? What was the resort called?
I forget the name of the resort, but it was really close to Hadrin. It was really close to like where the full moon party is. Like you could walk to the full moon party.
Down on the southern tip.
Exactly.
Okay.
It was near there.
Because I was in Copenhagen, we went for like an accelerator for my last product company. We were there for 3 months, and we went to we were on like kind of the north side. It was called Utopia, is the name of the resort, and it was a unique experience. I always wonder, it's like, I wonder if Remote Year was here, because it was like, this would be a great spot to host a program, because there was maybe like upwards of 20 little huts, you know, and they were like overlooking the ocean. There was a big, like my hut, I was like, because I was so tall, the lady was like, you have to have one of these ocean view huts just so you can stand up in the shower. And I was like, yeah, I do need that hut. And it was such a gorgeous spot, man. I loved every minute of it.
That sounds like it would have been a great spot for like a citizen house too, like that setup, like 20 little cabanas.
It could be. Yeah, I guess for a group back then, 75 people, like how did they pull that off? In that,
you know, I think they took over this whole resort. I still remember too, they had like, you know, like a buffet breakfast included. So it's like, you know, it's a resort that's used to operating just in this like very resorty way. And then like Remote Year bought it out for like that month period of time or whatever. But yeah, it was super successful, I think, that month for them. But then I went home for the holidays to see my family again, you know, whatever, trying to keep up with just doing that as like some way to check in with them every year. And then Remote Year flew us into Kyoto, because then the program went to Japan. So like our onboarding, like I remember that's where I met Sam, my like, you know, co-program leader.
Is that where it started, your program?
No, then like after that, the whole group, like we basically just kind of joined Remote Year 1, right? And we like did our onboarding as like part of the team, and then flew with the whole program to Buenos Aires.
So this was before your program started. You were just kind of tagging along.
2 months, I think we had onboarding, and then like, or I think Sam and I had 3 months. Jason and Dave had 2 months. So like we went to Argentina. Jason and Dave's program launched in Montevideo and actually in Uruguay. And then Sam and I went to Cordoba in Argentina, and our program launched a month later in Cordoba.
Okay.
We got to Cordoba like a month before our program did, and just started like organizing shit. I'm like, you know, I don't know anything here. I basically Spanish. I got to organize a welcome party for 75 people.
Oh,
you know,
man.
Like
I dream about Cordoba, man. The fucking choripan, that one choripan like food truck that's there in the circle in the park.
I love that place.
Across the street from the Evita house, you know?
Yeah.
Oh man, I have dreams about it where I wake up in a cold sweat going, I need to buy a ticket to Cordoba right now. Let's go.
I love that place too, because it's like the kind of place like nobody ever said like go to Cordoba, Argentina. Like I'd never heard of it, and all of a sudden I'm there for this like travel company and like trying to make 75 people have a great time. It was cool, man. It was a great starting month, because like the goal that first month is so much about like
you have to make a good impression, right? Like because people showing up and doing this for 12 more months is really predicated on having that first month being successful. Right?
Yeah.
How much? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like that first month went great. Like you could feel the group was really like bonding and like kind of.
Did you guys have city leaders then, or was it just you guys? Yeah.
It was just us.
So you guys had to figure out all the activities and like you had to create the presentations and the the city guide and all that stuff? Did you have to do all that shit?
Everything.
Made
Yeah.
made a little PowerPoint presentation, and it's like, how did you come up with the activities to make sure that it was a good impression?
I mean, in some ways, I was kind of lucky, at least to start the trip, because like I had been to a handful of places that we were going. So like we did La Paz, and I like knew La Paz from like the trip I first described of like
Sure.
going down with Brian through South America, and then we did where was we did Cusco, which I'd like known Cusco a bit, and obviously like it's like you go to Cusco, it's like the whole group's gonna go do Machu Picchu. There's Rainbow Mountain, we're gonna do that. Outside of that, it's like let's figure out where to have like a fun starting and ending party, where we can have like a weekly meeting that's kind of cool. So we like we're doing that once a week in like a big cafe, where kind of like open community forum where Sam and I would share updates about what's going on, but then we let anybody else like suggest things or plan things together. Yeah, so I don't know, it's cool. Like honestly, I really liked being a program leader back at that time, because it felt like you're building the airplane while you're flying it, sort of, and that feeling's exciting. Like it was just like exciting as fuck. Like there were definitely times where, like I didn't know what the farewell party was going to be like a week before it was on the calendar. I got just a week to like plan a party for 5 people. Like
it was just like hit the ground and you have to like start checking boxes.
Yeah, you have to just make plans and like really just like trust in like the community and the universe to like have it be a cool time. And
did you do any like gaucho events in Cordoba, like cowboy horseback riding things?
We did one, like we went outside of the city to like some lakes or rivers that were like really special, that felt more like rural or like rustic, but like nothing with like vaqueros or anything like that.
Did you get any abuelitas making empanadas for you guys or something?
In Argentina, we did Buenos Aires as one of our cities too, and I remember we actually had like a empanadas like class of like how to make those, and then we also had somebody come like teach us about mate, which I still really love mate, like the loose leaf tea, but somebody come explain like the culture and like the process of mate. I don't know. So I love those.
What was the tour you did? You did Cordoba and then Buenos Aires,
then La Paz, and then
La Paz.
Then
was your group the last group in La Paz?
It's such a bizarre route, actually. Yeah, first and only.
Because
first and only.
We were supposed to go there, and I heard it was a bit of a shit show.
Oh man, it's just
figuratively and literally.
Bro, we had so many people got altitude poisoning, for one, just because it's high. It's like fucking high as fuck. Yeah. And then so many people got food poisoning because like the food's it's not super safe, or like the water.
It's washed in water, in the local water.
And then one girl, like we did Death Mountain, which is like this really like kind of like dangerous bike ride. It's super intense, super fun. But like, if you know how to ride a bike, you shouldn't be hurt. But she like tried to race.
My God.
She fell and like broke her collarbones. Like, we people go to the hospital, and just like everything that could go wrong was going wrong.
Oh shit.
Somebody might have got mugged. It's just like, it's like basically the feedback was like, this was hard. And like, but our community chat, like even, to this day, we still have a pretty active WhatsApp chat. And like Bolivia came up like a week ago because we were planning like our new reunion. Somebody's like, Bolivia. And everybody was like, ja. This is like half the group has great memories. Half the group's like, my parents won't let me go back. It's like,
I'm grounded from Bolivia. It's like we're 35 years old, 40 years old now. No, you can't go there.
But I loved it. I love Bolivia. It's one of my favorites.
How is Cusco? Because I mean, my idea about Cusco is that it's quite small.
No, I thought Cusco for a month is perfect. I really thought like it was one that I remember always bringing up because it kind of got taken away out of a lot of the itineraries. But like, man, if you're telling me like you get a month in Bogota or Cusco, it's not even close to me. Like I'd rather be in Cusco for a month for sure. Yeah. Okay. Even like if it's like Lima or Cusco, I might pick Cusco because Cusco is just culturally so cool. It's like so interesting, and you go in any direction. Like you're in the Sacred Valley. The nature's cool. There's like more than enough like restaurants and like nightlife or like bars to like entertain a group. So it's like I don't know, but and like you just walk through like any part of Cusco, your like eyes are wide open, and it's
Lima's beautiful though.
I do like Lima.
You're just like on that escarpment, and it's
like that cliff. But it's
you're on the Pacific.
If you drive 20 minutes from either direction from Lima, it just turns into like sand and dirt. And so then you like realize like, oh, that's actually exactly what Lima's supposed to look like. They just like use a lot of water to like, it's like government, like those parks should not be green, and they're green because like there's a water truck that goes every morning. It makes
the Lovers Park or whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but it's like all very man-made. It's like very manicured when you step out and think about it. Because you go south down the coast from Lima, within 10 minutes of leaving the city, it's arid as shit. It's a desert. It's just rocks and sand. and like that's
Yeah.
what Lima was built on too.
So
I like
what
Lima. Bad nothing. I like Lima. But.
what did you do after Peru?
So then we took the group to Europe, and actually that was a really interesting time too because we had Istanbul on our itinerary, and I don't know if you remember, it was like a minor terrorist sort of activity where like there's a bomb that went off at the airport. There was like tension, so it's actually one of those early decisions that the company
Did you
made.
do a
That was
quick
like
pivot? Like you were on the
fantastic.
way to
No, it was
Istanbul
like
and
within like 2 weeks before there was like tension boiling.
yeah.
So within 2 weeks or like a month before, they like made the change to do London. So we ended up doing London instead. But like the day that our flight was gonna land was like the day that the bomb went off the airport. So it was like crazy actually. We were like, wow, we got so lucky that Remote Year made this choice as a company.
We were supposed to do Istanbul as well. And
Yeah, our shirts,
obviously
our original shirts still say Istanbul on them. You know, it's like it's funny to like be like, yeah, I've never happened.
Oh man, I don't have my original shirt anymore. It got eaten up by a fucking by the dryer.
By the dryer, yeah, that'll happen. A lot of our shirts got eaten.
Oh, I'm so upset. I want to just like recreate them, but cool. So you went to London. That's kind of a weird spot for a Remote Year. It was probably an expensive month.
Yeah, I think it only happened because this brand new place that I'm not even sure still exists opened, which was essentially like they turned a factory into like pod living, and the first floor had like a big restaurant bar, and then like there was like co-working locations built into the building too. So it's like just one deal with that building provided everything that the platform needed. It's like this is your housing, this is your co-working. We just got to get flights and get the group over there. So like it was a really clever sort of like quick pivot. And like I liked it, like why else would I ever spend a month in London? But like I got to go see like the Book of Mormon and Lion King like in their live like Broadway, like the Broadway versions of those things. I got to do like I did all the London shit or whatever. Nice. It was great. It was really cool. But yeah, it was like just going to eat out or whatever. Like the cost of living was a bit higher, so like that part was maybe a little stressful for some people, but it was cool, and I think the group enjoyed it enough to like it didn't like sour anybody's experience.
Yeah, totally.
But then we went. I think from there we went directly to Prague, which was like just what a fucking great place to go. Like that was just so good.
What time of the year was it? Was it winter or?
Yeah, this was getting summer. This was like maybe May, June, something like that.
Okay.
Because we started in like I think February, so it's like we had our first 4 months, and then over to Europe for the summer. Basically, was like kind of I think the
cool
intention of all that. But then
and how was Prague? They stopped doing Prague, so I never really got to experience that.
When people ask, like that favorite cities question, I always say Prague and Cape Town are like probably the two cities I put in the mix the most, and Mexico City. Yeah. But like I love Prague. I think Prague is such an incredible place. Like it's like actually cheaper to drink beer than water there. Like if you go and do a tienda and you want to buy a bottle of water or beer, the beer's cheaper. Like what? How you not love a place like that?
Yeah.
So then that was a great time. We did Serbia. We did Belgrade. It was really interesting.
We did the same.
And but like that's cool because like I'm not sure if I would have ever gone and spent as much time in like Eastern Europe. So that was pretty cool.
It broke down some walls.
Yeah.
What was after Serbia? Did you go to Asia after that?
It's been a minute, like.
Or did you go to South Africa from there?
We didn't do South Africa. We didn't do anywhere in Africa. We did do. Then I'm thinking in Asia. We ended in Vietnam. I'm trying to go backwards now from there. We did Chiang Mai. We were like one of the only groups to do Chiang Mai, which I thought was really cool. We ended in Vietnam. We also did Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, okay.
And we also did. Where else did we do in Asia? Oh, we did
Bali.
We did Siem Reap.
Oh, really? In Cambodia.
Or not Siem Reap. We did Phnom Penh. We did the capital.
Phnom Penh.
So like people obviously all did like side trips to Siem Reap to see Angkor Wat and stuff. But like
you only did 3 spots in Europe. Only 3.
Well, I'm trying to think what the 4. Like I'm missing a spot. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
You can't rhyme it out like the cities. It's super easy for me to rhyme them out. They flow in my mind.
I'm thinking it might have been Valencia, but like.
Yeah, that's like Valencia or Lisbon are pretty hot spots.
I don't think it wasn't Lisbon. I think it was Valencia.
Oh, yeah.
I have it on a bag.
Was it Croatia maybe?
Yes.
Split? Yeah.
That's what it was.
It was
We did
split.
Croatia, Serbia, Prague, and London. That's
There
a
you go.
weird, it's like you can see why because like in the long run, when I was community director and stuff, I spent a lot more time in Lisbon and Valencia and other places in Europe that
Yeah.
became more like
It
our
all
primary.
like it all fades together.
Yeah. And like now I'm trying to figure out like with that group, but like with that first group I led before becoming
Mhm.
the like director of community when I was, just in my first role as the PL. That was an interesting run though. Yeah, Croatia, Serbia, Prague, and London. Like that was the only time any group ever did like those four
Yeah.
as a group in Europe.
And then you did KL, Chiang Mai, Phnom
Siem Reap,
Penh,
and then Ho Chi Minh.
and Ho Chi Minh. Oh, you did
Yeah,
Ho Chi Minh. How was Ho
yeah.
Chi Minh?
I liked it. I mean, like you're close to a lot of interesting stuff in that part. So like we did,
Are, was it your group that like everybody bought a scooter and like started getting in accidents?
that was I think Batuta actually. I think that was Jason's group.
Okay.
His group was a bit more wild than mine. Like his group was like more party animal vibes.
We had
But
Batuta join us in Cambodia. There was
nice.
100 of us there, 100 plus.
Oh yeah, I remember that even actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did Christmas there together.
that's cool. Was that fun or was that like a failed experiment? In like your opinion?
It wasn't bad. There was some competition between the groups, I think, but
Yeah.
we made it. We made do.
Well, man, I gotta use the bathroom in a second, but like
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer you hoping to chat, but
Well, yeah, we don't have to go too much longer. I'd like to go into like what happened after that with the company. Like, did you continue working with them for a while, and like how did it
yeah,
end?
yeah. I mean, I can kind of like the quick overview of that next part of my life, or like the next part of my remote year chapter was, yeah, like wrapped it up with Cousteau. Cousteau was like a really strong program. Like we had a huge, really high retention rate. We started with like almost 80 people and we finished with around 60. So like we did really well keeping
Mhm.
like the group together for the year. And I also like early on in the company like carved out my own niche of being kind of like the community expert. Like nobody in the whole company had heard of like like forming, storming, norming, performing, or like some basic like how groups work together normally and stuff. And I had like all
Yeah.
this camp counselor background and like all this youth work background, so I knew how to kind of like I don't know get groups to get along or whatever. So yeah, I basically created my own role after that of just being like the director of community, and I was like, let me just kind of help now that like we're adding more programs. So I think around that time we were probably launching like group 7 or 8 or whatever. Like by the time my year finished.
Yeah.
And the idea was to launch a new group at least once a month or something. So then I was like, let me kind of be the one that's sort of like the community manager for all of the groups, or like for the whole like growing like what we ended up calling Remote Nation. So that was really cool, and like I got to just kind of like help where I could and be in a lot of interesting meetings about where the direction of the company was going and stuff, and started planning things. At some point, I remember the Trish being like, "Hey, like you've added a lot of value, but like now whatever value you added also has to make money for the company." And I was like, "Okay, fair enough." So like because at first I was planning a lot of like race across the nation or like dinners around the
Yeah.
world, like these kind of cool like bonding events, but they were just like cool bonding events. But then
Yeah.
that's when I started planning like nation houses and like summer camp and some of the events that were actually like ticketed weekend long or month long experiences that like would justify paying my salary for
Yeah.
super honest,
Yeah.
right? So like
Yeah.
that's kind of where my job, but like I had that role for like 3 years. That was kind of I think in the middle of those 3 years, that was like the main pivot of like just trying to
Mhm.
focus my energy on things that would benefit the company financially. But I really loved kind of like in a lot of ways, it was like some mix of like the remote year mascot slash CEO. Like I was also doing a lot of
Yeah.
like like I was like the face of the company in a lot of ways. I you know that like the community, at least from the community's perspective, I think. So it was
Yeah.
cool. I loved that job, man. I really loved
Yeah.
that job.
You did the summer camp. Did you take them to your original summer camp when you guys did that?
No, but the girl Meg, who I mentioned that like I was dating in Australia and flew back to Wisconsin to be with, we
Yeah.
went to her original summer camp, which is called
Oh,
Camp
okay.
Echo in like because it was in northern New York too. So just like getting people to fly into New York and drive like a couple
Mhm.
hours north was like just felt easy, like we could pull it off.
Yeah.
And we actually, we worked out a great deal with the camp. Like they gave us the whole place for like 4 days and like all the housing, all the games, all that stuff. We also rented out like a whole setup for like a silent disco. So like that was like the last big party of the weekend. We
Yeah.
nobody knew too, so it was like a big surprise, and we had like a big silent DJ party.
Man,
Like it
the short events just seem like I would be like depressed after them. It's just like such compared to doing a full year with everybody,
yeah.
like showing up for like 4 days would feel like such a like
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of
chore.
groups, they treated it like a reunion, right? It's like a lot of groups
Yeah.
that hadn't seen their favorite people from their RY program in 6
Yeah.
months or a year. So it's like they were trying to rally each other. Like I think Meraki had like 2 cabins. Like they had like almost 20 people from Meraki.
Yeah.
Stowe had one whole cabin. I think Batuta had a cabin. Like a lot of
How
programs.
many Majalis were there?
I think you guys had a cabin, or like some groups had half and half. So I put like
Yeah.
Magellan with whoever.
Buddha.
Yeah, and put them in the same cabin or whatever.
Rekindle some old
Yeah,
loves.
yeah, it was that.
Why did you stop? What happened? Was it like 2020 thing happened and
We all got fired on the same day, man. It was crazy.
yeah.
I mean, actually, to be totally factually honest, half of us got fired, then the next week the other half got fired.
Yeah.
I think at some point they were like, maybe we can like keep it together just in like a band-aid operation type of thing or like emergency operation mode. But then like a week later, those other people that they were trying to like, I think the reality kept getting more and more like intense. Because I think you remember too, like when the pandemic came, everybody that was on program had the option of like, we won't hold it against you if you want to just go back, we'll refund you for whatever part of the experience you didn't get to have. But then it's like if you're starting to refund people and you need the liquid to keep the company going or whatever, it just was like untenable. So we'll see. Everybody got fired. The company went into like just like turtle mode for a year, and like a year later Selena bought them.
Yeah.
And I think Selena's now going through some financial struggles, so we'll see what happens with Remote Year. But like Remote Year, I still get their ads on my phone. Like I think Remote Year's still operating.
Yeah.
Very different version. I see that they do like I don't know.
They're doing short events too.
Yeah, and it's all short stuff, and it's all like
they have monthly things. The monthly things are more accessible to people, so I get why they do that. But it's like it's not the same experience.
Not at all. Yeah, we slowly. I mean, like from the time I started to the time I ended, we went from like 12-month programs only to like sometimes I think we started doing 6-month programs, we started doing 4-month programs, and then we started right like in the last I'd say like 4 months I was there, we started doing month-long programs, and I remember like come on, just like not just the direction of just appealing to like the easiest thing to say yes to, because I think it was really cool in the beginning when people were saying yes to Remote Year. It was like you're changing your whole fucking life. Like you're like let's try, let's go crazy, let's go for a whole year commitment to like meet a bunch of people and travel the world. But then it's like okay, from a month to Medellin, it's like that's not
Meredith called it the travel MBA.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was an experience that it was like similar to going to university for a year, because you're just like you have all these people that you're like going to class with, and you like self-organize into different groups, climbers, entrepreneurs, this, that, and the other thing. And it was definitely a comparable experience, I think. So let's talk quickly about your new thing, about Sobre Luna.
Yeah, man. So
how's it going? What's the progress? You guys just had
like,
a big conversation today about roles and stuff. What's your role?
My role is like fundraiser, like lead fundraiser, which I've done pretty well at. And then we still have like, about 15 shares left out of the original 110 to sell. And so hopefully like, but we're also looking at like loan options because we just want to keep accelerating the progress of the construction. So it's like getting those 2 lines to 100, like the fundraising and the actual construction, getting those to 100% is the goal all the time. And it's moving along, man. But like, there's a lot of other things to consider with it. Like we're also trying to be a little active on social media. We're starting to think about hiring. We're going to try to get like a cafe partner to run the cafe part of the business. I'm already starting to like, plan out what a month might look like in terms of the experience and like the activities that we offer. So I don't know, there's a whole bunch of elements that go into it, but like in general, it's a co-living, co-working that will house about 40 to 50 people, depending on how the beds are being used. And then co-working for like another 40 or 50 people. And then, like events in the evening, like a stage area, a pool, a bar. So I don't know, it's a lot of elements to it, but it's basically like if you took a whiteboard and we're just going to draw like a dream destination for a digital nomad, this is basically what we're trying to do.
Cool, man. What are you thinking for, open dates?
I think that early next year is now what I'm hoping for. Like if we can open, like maybe throw a New Year's Eve party, right? Like that'd be fucking ideal. That'd be the hope. But maybe
instead of going back home to meet up with your boys for that trip, you're just telling, come down to Esco, Puerto Escondido.
No, we've talked about it. We're gonna make it like we always do that trip in the winter with those guys. So I was like, maybe we do a summer one year and you guys come down here, like bring the kids even or whatever. So they all got kids now, obviously.
Oh, boring.
Boo.
Boring. So you want to throw your book up here and just so people can see it.
Yeah, I got a copy all the time. Boom.
Not
Yeah,
that
this is
anybody asked. Not that
that's the
anyone
book.
asked. I didn't
Self-fulfilling
realize
person.
this was. I didn't realize this was just after school and before remote year.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
like the book is like I think it's a like coming of age in that sense. Like it's a travel
yeah,
memoir, but it's like
yeah,
coming of age as a traveler because like I'm very open about how nervous I was in the beginning, but then like
yeah.
partway into the book you're like this guy's like leading a group of random strangers like on a backpacking adventure across Ecuador or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
you start to settle into it. It's like I can do it.
Well,
Like I got this.
yeah. It's funny how you just like found yourself doing it. You're like just expressing yourself through the experience, and all of a sudden you have a little gang of 8 people following you through South America.
Yeah, man,
All
it was a real trip.
right. What about your socials? You
Travis
want to
King
drop?
Travels
Yeah.
is my Instagram. Travis King Travels, and then like just I guess start with Travis King Travels, but like my book has its own page. Sobre Luna has a page. My environmental projects that I work on here in Puerto has a page called Sostenible. But yeah, you can find all that stuff linked to my profile, which is just Travis King Travels. And I'm like on Facebook and other stuff too, but I'd say
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Instagram. If
No.
you really want to connect, that's where I'm spending most.
The business stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Cool,
I got a
bro.
website, just Travis W. King. If you want to visit that, you can find like, the links to the book and all the other stuff I write on there. Because I
Yeah.
publish on Medium and Substack pretty regularly too. But those are both linked through my website, so it's probably the easiest way to find them. It's just traviswking.com.
Cool, bro. Well, thanks for the jaunt around the world. How many countries was it?
52 or 3 or 4 or something like that at this
52.
point.
Oh, one per
I
week.
try not to like keep too much track of it because I don't think that's like the goal that
Yeah.
we should have as travelers. But like I know it's
It,
over 50. It's
I'm
kind of
in
fun to know.
I'm in technology. I love a good OKR,
Yeah,
So
I get that too.
okay, amigo.
All right, bro.
Thanks for hanging. Happy
Yeah, you too, man.
Thursday,
Pleasure.
and we'll talk soon. We'll talk soon about Sobre Luna.
Yeah, buddy. All right, peace.
Hey, peace, brother. Well, that was Travis from Sobre Luna. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to that. I hope you enjoyed all the tales of disappointing parents and doing what you think is right for you, anyways. I really appreciate Travis for taking the time to chat with me today. In the coming weeks, we have a few other special guests from my communities to listen to their stories and hear what drives and motivates them. If you'd like to share your story, if you're a fractional leader, if you're a digital nomad, if you're a solopreneur, please follow this podcast because I'm making it for you guys. Get into my DMs. We would love to talk to you and hear about what motivates you, what drives you, what your passions are, what your mission is, and I hope to talk to you soon. Stay tuned.